When you think of Rite Aid, what comes to mind? A convenient place to pick up a prescription or some over-the-counter meds, perhaps. But what if there was a shadowy tale lurking behind those familiar pharmacy doors? Today, we're diving into the dark truth about Rite Aid and opioids, and why the giant company is filing for bankruptcy. By the end of this video, you'll discover that sometimes the most ordinary places hide the most extraordinary secrets. The opioid issue has been in the spotlight for quite some time, but are you aware of its true magnitude? The problem originated in the 1990s, when opioid painkillers were excessively prescribed. Drug manufacturers convinced the healthcare sector that these medications wouldn't lead to addiction, resulting in a spike in prescriptions and, subsequently, addiction rates. The opioid crisis stands as one of the most lethal drug epidemics in U.S. history. Ranging from prescribed medications to illicit substances like heroin, opioids have been responsible for the demise of countless individuals. The data is alarming, indicating over 450,000 opioid-related overdose deaths from 1990 to 2018. The worst part is, Rite Aid had a huge role to play in this deadly crisis. Amidst the numerous pharmacies nationwide, how did Rite Aid become embroiled in the opioid saga? As a top-tier drugstore chain in the US, Rite Aid was inevitably caught up in the opioid whirlwind. Investigations indicate that during the epidemic's peak, Rite Aid outlets distributed billions of opioid tablets. However, their concern wasn't merely the quantity, it was the procedures. Several Rite Aid stores received alerts for questionable orders, yet they persisted in dispensing massive quantities of pills without sufficient supervision or disclosure. Such negligence played a role in the widespread of opioids in local communities, but thankfully, there were some heroes. Behind every big controversy, there's often a brave soul who dares to speak out. But who were the heroes of this story? Whistleblowers from within the industry began to shed light on the questionable practices of many, including Rite Aid. These insiders painted a picture of a system where profit was prioritized over patient safety. As a result, Rite Aid, along with other major pharmacies, faced numerous lawsuits from states, cities, and counties across the US. These lawsuits alleged that Rite Aid and others contributed to the opioid crisis by failing to monitor and report suspicious orders, essentially fueling the fire of the epidemic. But Rite Aid paid for their mistakes. With mounting evidence and growing public outcry, how did Rite Aid respond to the allegations? Facing the weight of the crisis and the role pharmacies played, Rite Aid, among other chains, found themselves at the negotiation table. Multi-million-dollar settlements were discussed as a way to hold these corporations accountable and fund treatment and prevention efforts. Rite Aid agreed to significant settlements in various lawsuits, acknowledging the need for change in the industry. These funds aimed to provide some relief to the communities devastated by the epidemic and ensure stricter oversight in the future. But it wasn't enough to save Rite Aid. The opioid crisis served as a wake-up call for the entire healthcare industry. Rite Aid, having faced its dark truths, began implementing stricter monitoring systems and emphasizing pharmacists' roles in patient education about the risks of opioids. However, these changes weren't enough, and Rite Aid had no choice but to file for bankruptcy in October 2023 due to large debts from lawsuits. The tale of Rite Aid and opioids is a stark reminder that even the most trusted institutions can have hidden shadows. It's a story of corporate oversight, the devastating impact of addiction, and the hope for change. As we pull back the curtain on this chapter, remember that awareness is the first step to prevention, as companies aim for more transparency, better practices, and a focus on patient well-being. And as consumers, our vigilance can ensure that history doesn't repeat itself. What do you think?